guys, this is Austin.
And Jon.
And welcome to another episode of Meatgistics. I feel like we could kind of pander around, but I want to get straight into the beer. So let's just jump right into this.
Let's get right to it.
Okay. So, as always, Jon and I each bought a beer for the other one, and we're going to see what we got and if we like it.
So mine's in a glass already. I'm assuming it came in a bottle that has to be poured.
Yeah, definitely on a beer like that, it's something that's going to drink better out of the glass.
Yeah, that's really good. Nicely done.
So mine is a Pompeii India Pale Ale from Toppling Goliath Brewing Company.
It's the same one we got those Sioux ones from.
That's definitely really interesting on the flavor. You can tell it's an IPA, but it's like really heavy on like grapefruit, maybe.
Ooh.
I'm not really sure.
I'm gonna hate that.
I don't know. It's not bad, but it's different. I would definitely drink it again. Is it a 4-pack or 6-pack?
4-pack.
Okay.
So what is this? What you got me?
What I got you.
Nicely done. Austin just over poured and it's spilling all over the place.
That's
now.
okay. We've got towels. I'll clean it up later. So I got you one that I'm pronouncing as Unibrow, a Maudite Unibrow. It's a Belgian style double ale.
Yeah, it really tastes. It's very clearly a Belgian. For anyone who's not familiar with this beer, it is 8% alcohol, and the label is a canoe in the sky with a devil with wings underneath it. There seems to be a theme here. That's 2 weeks in a row that you've gotten me something with a devil on it.
I'm just slightly trying to drop hints. You know, I feel like I've done my job then if you've got the hint.
So good job. I love mine.
I definitely love mine.
So mission accomplished.
Yeah. Next week, maybe I'll change it up and I'll get you something a little more off the wall that we'll have to do a little bit of a guessing game if you're going to like or not.
Okay, we could do that. Speaking of guessing games, It was your week to make me something, and I have to guess what it is that you made.
So is this our meat creation segment, our meat of the day, or
mystery meat?
Mystery meat.
I mean, it's got some nice alliteration to it.
All right. We've got snack sticks here. I slaved all night making these for Jon. Kind of, not really, maybe, possibly. But he now is taking a bite out of the snack stick. He's going to taste it, and he has to guess what seasoning that I used in it. I kind of give him a fairly good chance at guessing this, but on the other hand, every week we've kind of thought that this was going to be something easy to do and easy to guess, but we've always picked something that has enough similar flavor profile to other things or something really off the wall. When you did the green tea one, I mean, that was
green tea sausage.
That was brutal because it has a weird flavor that kind of matches some other things, but definitely unique for its own. But I forgot that we added that, so I didn't get it. I got you another week with breakfast sausage.
Weren't even beef or pork.
Yeah.
It was bison and fake meat.
Yeah. And I don't even remember. What did you do last time for me?
It was the Excalibur barbecue jerky unit as a snack stick.
Yeah.
All right.
You have a guess?
I'm going to guess Willie's without encapsulated citric acid. Do you know if it has encapsulated citric acid or not?
Oh, I made it.
No, you didn't. You did not make these.
No, I actually didn't make them.
So Willie's?
Is that your final answer?
Yeah, it's my final answer.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
You're wrong.
Oh, what is it?
You really you don't even have another guess. You just want me to tell you? I can, but I'm willing to take the victory right here and now. I just want to give you a chance to be the first one to guess it correctly. Jon is thinking really hard and deep right now. We'll see what he can come up with, but...
Pepper stick?
Nope, not pepper stick either.
Oh, what is it?
So it is one of our newer ones. It's fajita.
Really?
Fajita snack stick, yeah. So I was debating between fajita snack stick or Chicago style bratwurst. And so I thawed out a package of both, and then I started eating the fajita, and I'm like, oh no, I'm doing fajita. That tastes amazing. I'm like, that. Honestly, I'm not really sure that I get a huge fajita flavor out of it.
Did these ones say beef on them?
I don't know. The package is still in my office.
Okay.
I'll have to check later.
So we made these out of beef and pork, and made out of beef tasted very much like a fajita. Made out of pork, it really didn't. It was weird. I either did not do a good job measuring out ingredients, which is always possible, but I really think the flavor of this one changes big time when you go from beef to pork. I should have known that you wouldn't just pick Willie's for me.
No, someday I will, just to mess with your head. Because if one of us picks like the top seller out of a category and we can't guess it, that's going to be embarrassing.
That's bad.
But
I'm still mad I didn't get H110C.
Yeah.
But you threw a different protein at me. Anyways,
I feel like I slightly cheated on that one. But
they're really good.
Yeah,
very good.
Very good.
But you didn't make these, right?
No, I didn't make them.
Okay.
I found a package hiding in the back corner of the freezer. It was like behind some of the other boxes and stuff. And I was like, ooh, I bet John hasn't seen that one in a while. So that one's a good one to go with. So
well done. Well done. You beat me.
Well, one of these days, one of us will guess it right. But
I don't know that we ever will.
We're 0-5 right now.
Yes. I mean, the law of averages.
5-0, however you want to look at it.
All right. So we asked you guys during the last live stream, we gave you podcast@waltonsinc.com as an email address to send us your questions, comments, anything you wanted us to talk about. And Chef Raul, who won the $50 coupon card, whatever we were calling it, coupon code, sent in, I would love for you to cover the basics of cured sausage. I'm just winging it from trial and error and would love to see this topic covered. So the first thing I would recommend to anyone doing this is go to Meatgistics University.
Yeah.
And we have an entire section on cured sausage. All the 1.0s and I think all the 2.0s are finished. We have 101, 102, 103, which will run you through all the basics. And the 1.0s and the 2.0s has a little bit more advanced stuff. That would be the best way to do it because A, you can just watch something again, or we have the video and the article. So all the information is there.
Yeah.
But to take a quick but look at it that's going to get most of the highlights, you want to have your fat content somewhere between 20 to 30% for a cured sausage.
And sometimes that scares people because they think that they should only use like 10 or 15%. No. Make sure you use enough fat because fat really does bring out the flavor. It really does help the sausage. So make sure you use at least that 20% up to 30% or so. Yeah,
and don't bother going too much higher than that. Unless you're doing some really specific things that's going to render out during the cooking process. So don't go any farther, higher than that. And then keep everything super cold while you're processing it. I like to get the meat to the point where it's got a nice like rind on it almost of ice crystals. Cut it up just small enough so it'll fit down the throat of your grinder. You're going to grind it twice. First time through a 3/8 plate and the second time through a 1/8 plate. If necessary, and if you have if you have like a number 12 or a number 8, I would refreeze it between the two grinds. Second grind is always going to take significantly longer than the first and be a little bit harder on the proteins. Reason that it's going to take longer is that A, you're grinding through a smaller whole plate, so that would just naturally take longer. But B, the auger, as it's pushing it down towards the plate and knife, it doesn't have as much to grab on. When it's a chunk of meat, it's got something to grab on and force it down there. When it's ground and formed, that meat can just kind of move in there. So it's easier for it to just pack up in there. So after you've ground it twice, you're going to want to mix your seasonings, any additives, anything like that in. If you're using encapsulated citric acid, make sure you're waiting till the last 60 seconds of your mixing process. Otherwise, you run the risk of rupturing the encapsulation. That'll ruin your bind. And then Mix, 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 mix. You want to make sure you have really good protein extraction. Things should be nice and sticky. The way I like to describe it is if you put your hand down in a big clob of the meat, pick it up, and you start pulling it apart, the meat should stretch a good distance before it breaks.
Yeah. Almost like silly putty. Not
Yep.
that extensive, but it doesn't just break apart like ground beef does.
Yeah. And you can also see it a little bit, depending on the type of mixture you use. If you have a paddle style, like the bread dough style from top down, a lot of times those types of mixers that are designed for meat will keep the particle definition a little bit better than like the horizontal paddle ones.
Yeah.
But the horizontal pattern one is definitely better than trying to do it with your hands.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You're going to get better protein extraction. It's going to happen faster. And remember, you've been keeping this meat as cold as you can through this entire process. So if you're putting your hands in there and mixing it, they're going to hurt by the time you get the proper level of protein extraction. Because if you're doing like a 10-pound batch, it should take you 7-8 minutes of hard hand mixing. And that's basically, I mean, it's just above frozen.
Yeah.
So that's going to be really cold.
Using your hands, you're also going to increase the temperature of the meat versus, I mean, it's still going to increase if you're using a meat mixer.
Okay.
But if you have organic material that's producing heat, like your hands in there, it's definitely going to increase it more. And that is one of the big keys. And the big things to remember is cold meat will make your sausage better.
Yep.
If it gets warm, it's definitely going to have some issues.
Yeah, I never thought of that. There is also the issue that protein extraction will not happen through a certain temperature range. Now, I think that's upwards of 50-something degrees, so that shouldn't be an issue. If you're at 50-something degrees, you've already ruined your batch anyways, so who cares if you get protein extraction or not at that point?
Yeah.
It's not going to make a difference. So after you've gotten that protein extraction, load it into your stuffer. Make sure that you're not creating any air pockets in there. The way I like to describe it is it's like a sliding ladder. So stuff it down with a slope, pack that down, then put more meat in on a reverse slope, just making sure that you've filled that void and then all the way up. Make sure your air release valve on your piston is working properly. It should be moving fairly easily. Oil your gaskets, and also we should say make sure you oil your plates and knives when you're grinding, and make sure you have sharp plates and knives. Yeah. A good thing to do also is to put your whole head assembly of the grinder in the freezer. So then, go ahead and stuff. You want to choose the largest stuffing tube you can that your casings will fit over. I wouldn't go anything smaller than a 19 millimeter smoked collagen. 21 millimeters probably better for a beginner. So just stuff until the casing is mostly full and firm.
If we're dealing with collagen or even fibrous, it's not going to have any elasticity in the casing. If you're doing a fresh sausage and you're doing like bratwurst with a natural casing, there is some ability to flex and expand. But with a cured sausage, you're most of the time going to do a collagen casing. You could do a natural, but most of the time it's going to be collagen or fibrous, and those do not expand. So if you fill too full, the pressure is going to be really intense on that casing, and you're going to have a tendency to have some blowouts and issues when you hang it in your smokehouse. So,
yeah, I definitely, for some reason, went from cured sausage to snack sticks. Like it's the same process, other than what you stuff it into.
Yeah, snack sticks it's a good example that covers about everything.
For some reason, focused in on that.
The biggest difference there is if you're making a snack stick or a summer sausage, you're going to do everything the same until you start stuffing. You're going to use a collagen or you're going to use a fibrous. Yep. And then your cook schedule on summer sausage is just going to be longer.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different, right? I think it's a little bit
it'll be a little
close.
different, but it's
if
close.
You used your summer sausage or your snack stick smoke schedule on summer sausage, you'd be fine. It would just take longer. Because it's a thicker. Then hang in your smokehouse. You got to, depending on what kind of smokehouse you have, you either want to run dampers wide open, or if you have a fan on for the first 30 minutes. You want to get the surface of the casing dry. then start your cooking process, close your dampers down, and you can start adding smoke and humidity at that point. A lot of the times recently I've been doing 30 minutes and 30 minutes. So 30 minutes dry and then a 30-minute cook process. Then I'll start adding smoke and humidity. And then when you're done, when you've reached your 160 degrees, make sure you're both of those, both a summer sausage and a snack stick, you want to make sure you're getting it into an ice bath quickly. So
Yeah.
for similar reasons, but different. It's weird. An ice bath helps separate the casing on a summer sausage. Like if you don't put it in an ice bath, and when I say ice bath, I mean ice and water at like a 50-50 mix. Cold water is not an ice bath. I know a lot of people are doing that, but I put it in cold water.
The cold water is going to like instantly start to heat up.
Yep.
So the extra ice in there is going to help keep that cold temperature.
Yep. So it'll help the casing separate from the summer sausage, but it will also help the casing set to the snack stick, which I know sounds odd, but obviously the casings are made totally differently out of totally different materials.
Yeah.
With different end goals in mind. So yeah, ice bath, absolutely important. Then you're going to want to leave them out for at least an hour at room temperature. You want to leave them out single stack too. Don't just throw it in a lug and let it sit there. You want to like let it have access to the air.
Yeah. So unless you want to add more here, is I think the biggest reason there is to, one, let the temperature equalize a little bit, but you want to stop any extra moisture on the outside, humidity on it, before you go to either the fridge or packaging or anything there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think I've never tried. Yes, I have. If you try to package it after that first hour, or even 2 hours, you'll end up with some moisture in your vac bag. You should go to a cooler for 12 hours at least. One
thing that maybe we should try is, I know moisture is something that you have to fight against before you package. But what if you're making a small batch? Say you made 10 pounds or even 20 pounds.
Okay.
Could you like hand dry them and then package them right away? As long as the temperature got cool enough from being in the ice bath.
Right.
Because if you have a big temperature difference, you're going to create more moisture even when you're inside the bag. But say the temperature was brought down far enough by that ice bath, and then you hand dry them. Think we could package them at that point?
After the full hour?
Yeah, after an hour.
Maybe. I honestly, I don't.
We might have to try that.
We could try something
because that might speed up the process for some people making smaller batches.
Right.
Obviously, if you're making like 100 pounds of something, you probably don't want to do that. Just
don't risk anything.
Yeah, but
and then one other thing, if you want, you can pull whatever you're making out of the smoker at about 130 degrees internal temperature. Finish it up in either hot water. A couple of episodes ago, I said boiling water. Obviously not boiling water. Around 170, 180 degree water. You can finish it up in there. It will vastly speed up.
So just in some sort of sous vide bath.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. And if you're doing it in a sous vide with a circulator, make sure you're putting it in a vac bag. But then, there you go. It's not brain surgery.
So I have a question for you. I already have my answer because I figured I was going to ask this as you were going through stuff, but see if we have the same answer or not. If you had to pick one thing, one step through that process that you want people to focus on to be able to make a better product, what are you going to choose?
Protein extraction.
Okay. Yeah. And that's my same answer.
Yeah. It's the thing most people miss. So if you don't get proper protein extraction, I like that, proper protein extraction. It's going to let the fat cook out of your meat. So you're going to end up with a dry product because the fat will leach out and then either get trapped between the casing or drip down all the way down your floor and make a huge mess. It's going to ruin your casing. And it is what most people mess up on.
Yeah. And I will say that it's been a long time since I've done that, but it was the last time I really did a bad job of making a cured sausage and I had it fat out was probably 12 plus years ago. But when I did that, it made the most disgusting looking sausage because literally the rest of the lean protein, it shrinks down and then the entire casing is still shriveled
Right.
And then you just have these massive fat pockets on the outside everywhere.
Yep.
It doesn't taste horrible. The texture is definitely wrong. It's not good. And you're like, as you're eating it and you get that mouth feel. And I know I use that just because I know you love that term, John. But
did I not put it in here?
You put it
I know
on something on
Yeah,
Meatgistics, yeah. So
palate appeal. Palate appeal.
Palate appeal.
Palate appeal.
Palate preference.
Oh, even better. That makes me happy.
Maybe something like that. But so yeah, if you have those big fat pockets, I mean, you at least still get the fat in there, so you get the taste on stuff.
But it feels
just
greasy.
It feels weird when you eat it. It tastes similar. It's just the texture throws you off so much. And when people look at it, they're like, dude, what is wrong with that sausage?
What did you do to that?
But it's still edible. So if you do make that mistake, still eat it.
Sure.
I'm not saying get rid of it.
Sure.
But the best way to avoid that is, make sure you get protein extraction.
Yeah, that and also add a binder. That would be, if there was one addition, it would either be encapsulated citric acid, but some people don't like the tang. So if you want to not get that tang, don't add encapsulated citric acid. After you've stuffed it, hold it overnight in a cooler. That's going to allow the cure that you added time to work in the meat. If you added the sure cure, you don't need to do that. I'm sorry. If you added the citric acid, you don't need to do that. But a binder, something like Sure Gel, soy protein blend, Super Bind, even carrot fiber, any of those are going to help prevent fat out. It's going to give you a better overall consistency. They help with moisture retention, just all around. And they're not very expensive. I mean, Sure Gel is a little bit pricey, but even that's like $8.
Yeah. I mean, you're adding 30 or 40 cents at the most per pound.
Right.
On the cheaper side, you're adding like 15 or 20 cents.
Yep.
So it doesn't add a lot to the price of what you're making.
Nope.
It's in my opinion a hands down no brainer that you add some sort of binder to it. Yeah.
Yep. So moving on to Meat Matters.
I think we should rephrase this and call it like Meat News.
Nope. Meat Matters.
Meat News has kind of a better ring to it, doesn't it?
It definitely doesn't. That's a ridiculous comment. So one of the articles I saw was on Fox, and it was about the increase in hunters during this time. And one, absolutely a great thing. Love to see it. The more people who want to get into hunting, the better. I know not everybody feels that way. I do feel like the majority of hunters do feel that way, though. We want other people to share our passion. The more people involved, yes, occasionally that might mean a couple more people you're going to run into out there, but it also means more money for preservation, more interest is a good thing. So this is a good thing. If there is a silver lining that comes out of all this COVID nonsense, this is what I'm looking at as it.
I think that it's never a problem to have more people hunting, because the more people that are hunting, one, there will be more money for every state wildlife department to go out and make more lands conservation programs, whether it's a CRP program or whatever it is, wetlands, etc. It only helps there. Are some people going to be jack wagons? And yes, we're always going to have the jack wagons out there that give some of us a bad name, but 99% of us are responsible with our hunting. And the more people we add, I think the people we're adding right now are going to be definitely in that responsible group. Hopefully, anyways.
Hopefully. I don't know that it would be any higher than the average. I would say there's actually an argument for the opposite, because they're very much focused at least on getting meat. So there may be some ethical corners cut. That's a pessimistic view.
I don't know. Yeah, you could argue both sides.
Right. Either way, it is a great thing. Love to see people actually taking an interest in, this public land that belongs to us as Americans.
Yeah.
So that was a great thing, and also great way to supplement some sort of meat that you couldn't get at the grocery store anymore.
I don't know if they gave any official numbers in the article here.
Yep.
Yeah, I was looking through, but at least,
It was more just an opinion piece.
Just saying, yeah, hunting licenses have increased in states. Interestingly, though, they just going towards the bottom of it, says 2 states have declined, California and Florida.
I can see California. I don't understand Florida. What we need is people to go hunt those pythons in the Everglades.
Yeah, but I don't even view that as something that you're getting a hunting license for. Like, are they nuisances? Can you just go out and kill them?
Yep. And you get a reward for them.
Okay.
What we need to do is let them use, what do you call it? The skin of a snake? Is it it's not the hide.
Yeah, it'd be skin. Like snake
we've got to
leather.
let them, we've got to let them use that, make that valuable, and that problem in the Everglades will disappear.
Yeah.
So
California is interesting to me because they have enough national parks over there. And I mean, obviously in the big city areas, you're not going to get people hunting, but there is a lot of rural California, a lot of agricultural ground. I am kind of surprised that their numbers are down.
I would say California is probably the second most resource rich state in the country behind Alaska.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I mean, they've got all sorts of terrain. They've got oil. They've got amazing scenery. Their national parks are just out of control, beautiful. And if you take out San Francisco, Los Angeles, and what's the capital?
Sacramento?
Sacramento, thank you. Take out those 3 cities, and it's a fairly conservative area. I mean, people outside of the cities in California are not liberals.
I'd have to look and see, is land-wise, where does that fall? How much, percentage-wise of the state, how much is city versus how much is agricultural?
Oh, I know Los Angeles sprawls. It's enormous, the neighborhoods around it. I think it's somewhat the same in San Francisco, but not quite the same. You've got the bay right there. And then Oakland as well. So you have Oakland and San Francisco right across the bay. I wonder how big that city would be if you combine the two and called it one. I mean, because they're right across the bay.
Large, very large.
Ridiculously big.
I've drove along there. It felt like you just drive like forever to get through it all. We were in San Francisco. I don't even remember why. Don't remember what we were there for.
Okay.
When we were driving out, because we rarely fly anywhere. We're drivers. We drove then down through Oakland and around, and it's city everywhere.
Going,
It's kind of depressing.
Yeah.
People say Kansas is boring, but I love driving through the Flint Hills.
Okay.
Love driving through the Flint Hills.
Yeah.
Western Kansas, okay. Western Kansas gets a little boring at times, but Eastern Kansas with the Flint Hills, I love the Flint Hills, especially this time of year. They've been doing like range burning and stuff. I love watching that.
Right, but it's nothing compared to the Smoky Mountains. It's nothing compared to the Adirondacks. It's certainly nothing compared to the Rockies, which you drive through a bunch.
Oh, yeah, not at all. But some people say like, oh, Kansas is just flat open prairie. I mean, yeah, towards the western side a bit, but on the eastern side, you don't have all the trees and you get the views. You can still see 20 miles out in front of you versus you get some places further east and, they're as hilly as the Flint Hills are, but there's so many trees that you can't see jack.
Yeah.
So
trees are a good thing though.
Yeah.
I miss trees. I miss mountains. So you'll never win me over on that one.
Okay. Well, someday I'll try and see if I can't get there. But for now, I think we switch over to talking about some small to mid-sized independent meat processors out there and how they're kind of reacting to the whole COVID situation right now. So obviously we don't want to talk about COVID all the time because I'm sure everyone out there is kind of sick of things. So we're just talking about some of the repercussions from it and what's going on in the meat industry. But a lot of big plants have been closing. And I think, did I put? Yeah. So I'm going to steal a stat from one of our future meat matters here, but
all of them.
There's been at least 22 large plant closures, not small facilities, but large plant closures. That's causing a strain on some of the small to mid-sized guys out there. So our local news station or whatever, they went and interviewed a bunch of people that are around the Wichita area here and what they're experiencing. Who was the first one on here? It was it Matt? Yeah, it was Matt. So out at El Dorado, Walnut Valley Packing, the president there, Matt Carselway, he was interviewed and he was talking about what they're doing, and they are just struggling to keep the shelves stocked. They are keeping them stocked, but it's insane how many people are just coming into these small places and buying that normally don't.
And when you say struggling to keep the shelves stocked, it's not because you're struggling to get meat in. What it is they're cutting it as just as fast, if not faster than they're able to cut it. People are coming in and buying it because they're not able to go to Kroger's, Dillon's, whatever their grocery store is and get the same thing that they're used to getting. Sorry, go ahead. I just want to clear that up.
Yeah. Matt even gave some stats on the number of beef and hogs they're doing a week. They're doing 50 beef a week and 20 hogs a week. They're doing more than they normally do. Yeah. It's just trying to staff that and do it all. You can't just hire someone off the street and say, you're a meat cutter now. Right. It takes some skill. It takes some training. So it's hard for guys like that to just hire more people and instantly double or triple or quadruple what they're doing. But in the story here, I'm not going to try to read through the whole thing, but I know they interviewed at least a couple others. I want to say they interviewed Yoder. Okay. Yoder was seeing the same thing. I think his name is Kenneth Bontrager. He's like the production manager out there. They were seeing similar stuff. But even from what I've heard from customers around the Kansas area, around the country, is kind of this same thing everywhere, where almost all the small guys right now, they're at least not slow. Right. Some are busier than others. Right. But that small to mid-sized processor is just booming right now.
So I wonder, to also kind of steal from a future thing we're going to talk about, there are a ton of meat inspectors right now who are sick.
Ooh,
unfortunately, some of them have died. I wonder how many plants are having issues with that, because most of these big plants have meat inspectors assigned to them.
Well, even small people like Walnut Valley,
they'll share.
Maybe. I don't know if they get their own or if they don't.
You think Walnut Valley's on that? They might be big enough?
I don't know. Okay. They might not. I don't know. But
because they can't run without an inspector.
Yeah, if an inspector is not there, you cannot harvest. Yep. You cannot proceed and process. The inspector has to be there to go through things. So we'll skip to number 4 and we'll jump back to number 3 here. You guys don't know what our stuff is, so whatever. But for John and I's sake, so 150 federal meat inspectors have been diagnosed with COVID so far. Doesn't sound like a lot of people. I mean, it is, but it isn't. But there's not like millions of these people out there.
Right.
They have another almost 150 that are quarantined right now.
Okay.
And so you're talking about having 300 USDA inspectors that are just taken out. That creates a problem.
Absolutely. Across the entire meat industry. And listen, I know for a fact, if you talk to some of these plant managers and you get them in a private moment and ask them about their inspector, you're going to hear some not good language. But man, I bet you that they're hoping those guys are healthy and okay right now because they're shut down without them.
Yeah, and the hard thing in some of those meat plants is it is hard at times to maintain complete social distancing. The inspector has to be right next to whoever is harvesting the animal, whoever's splitting a beef, whoever's processing in the fab room.
Well, not only that, like if you're a cutter, you and I need to be right next to each other. Yeah. And you need to be able to pass me subprimals and I need to break it. Like there's no way to keep far apart during that.
I think that's why we've seen some of the big plants have so many issues is that you pack 3,000 people into one plant, and you're going to have one person catches it and it's going to spread.
Yep. Now, still some good news on that. As far as I'm aware, there's still, according to the USDA, has not been a single case of food to person transmission.
Yeah. Sounds like we're totally clear there.
Yep.
Doesn't sound like that's an issue.
Real quick, just my favorite federal inspector story that I have is from a plant down in Texas who their inspector wouldn't let them package because in his mind, a comma was out of place. He didn't like the Oxford comma. There shouldn't have been a comma after a word before and. Wouldn't let them package because of that.
Yeah. Some inspectors are really nice people.
Sure.
Don't get me wrong. But some of them, I think sometimes feel like they're on a high horse.
Cops.
But that's hard to just say that because I've known a lot of cops that are great people.
Absolutely.
I used to live next to a cop and the dude was awesome.
Yeah.
He was honestly, I would wish that if I was ever pulled over, I was pulled over by him.
Sure.
Because if I do something wrong, I'm okay with reaping whatever I sowed.
If you deserve it.
Yeah. But at the same time, when people just try to find something wrong just to find something wrong, that's the issue. But you find that everywhere, though. But some inspectors rub some processors the wrong way in that they think they're the ultimate lawgiver.
Right.
And you get a little headbutting going back and forth.
And to be fair, I mean, meat processing isn't the industry for soft people either. So a lot of the plant owners and managers are hard knock guys who don't want to be told anything.
Yeah.
So
the next story we have for Meat Matters still kind of hits on everything else we've been talking about. But at one of the Missouri pork plants, they had 400 workers test positive for COVID-19. It was like 390 out of that 400 were asymptomatic. That's insane.
Yeah.
We
need to, I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but we need to know people's blood type and if they're healthy. If you're O positive or O negative, so if you're O and you're healthy, keep working. You have no business shutting down. You're not going to have any real symptoms. That seems to be what it is. If you O blood is like the not affected by this at all. Give me 1 second. Patrick, was it A you were saying is the worst? Yep. A is the worst. So know your blood type and let's start managing this as adults and as Americans. Let us choose the risk we want to take. I don't need the government to be my nanny. That's
the hardest thing I have with all of this is the government has taken a lot of things on their shoulders is to telling us what to do when they really have no right. And, those of us that want to be safe and we want to stay at home, we want to avoid crowds, we want to do all that, we're going to do it. But those that want to go out and do that, let them. It's their own risk. The rest of us, the government has to create, and I hate to get into politics here, but they have to create a scenario where everyone has the freedom to choose and enact things in a way that those people that choose to avoid all of the COVID thing right now don't suffer from it. Mm-hmm. But those that say, whatever, I'm going to do my own thing, they're free to do that. But when they get sick, it's on them.
Here's why I don't think they want to let that happen is as soon as we say, no, you're not telling me what to do, they lose their authority. So they're trying to step too far. What they're not thinking of is A, the worst thing to do from a position of any type of management, leadership, anything is to give an order will not be obeyed because that destroys all of your credibility. And B, this is off topic, but in Australia, 15 years ago, they had the gun grab.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah.
So, and as Americans, we always hear about how crazy our Australians are. Like, oh, they're a colony set up of, criminals. So basically what happened was the British used Australia as like a way to get rid of all their criminals. So they put them on a boat and said, go there. So yeah, a bunch of criminals crazy. We're from people who didn't get forced to leave, but wanted to leave and go do our own thing. So we're far more crazy and independent in my mind. And if we don't do a good job getting every single freedom that they've taken from us back, I'll be really disappointed.
Yeah, I think we've lost so many freedoms over the past 3 months that it kind of scares me. Can anything go back to anything that we thought was normal before? Because now, whether it's right or wrong, some of the things that have been done and enacted and what they've pushed through, now they feel like they have the power over everyone, and they can tell us what to do now.
They need to be very clearly shown that is not the case. Okay, moving on. Sorry.
So for our next segment, we got meat hacks. This is kind of a topic that we already touched on a bit, but we'll try to get into some extra details on a few areas. But the meat hack for the day is adding binders when you're making sausage.
Sure.
Specifically, most of the time, cured sausage. You could use one in a fresh sausage, but it'd be very specific. I wouldn't use Sure-Gel.
Nope.
You might use carrot fiber. Yep. But each of the binders we have kind of have a more specific or a better use case than some of the others.
Yes. So carrot fiber, great it's a great all-around binder, obviously. It's low cost, which I think is what a lot of people like about it. More importantly, maybe than that, is it has no allergens.
Yes.
So
that's, I think, the biggest selling point on carrot fiber.
Probably, yeah. Both the soy protein blend and the Sure-Gel both do. Carrot fiber, though, the downside to it, or what it lacks, is it's not adding any protein to your meat. So soy protein blend, Sure-Gel are both actually upping the protein level. So they're making protein extraction easier by providing more protein. It's a great, simple way to do it. Carrot fiber, what it's going to do is hold up to 26 times its weight in water. So that means you can literally use 1 ounce of carrot fiber and 26 ounces of water, and it will make like a paste out of it.
Yeah.
So that keeps it in your sausage during the cooking process. So if you are going to add something for a fresh sausage, that's definitely the one to add.
Most of the time on a fresh sausage, I see that getting the most use when we're talking like poultry, like a chicken bratwurst.
Yep.
That one, I would almost say you need to add carrot fiber to.
Yeah, something like that, for sure. We just did some chicken snack sticks and we used carrot fiber as well, and it worked really well.
Those were delicious.
Really well. And then when we're going into a cured sausage, my favorite is the Sure-Gel.
Yeah.
Little bit more expensive than the carrot fiber and the soy protein blend. I just think it does a better job. Specifically, I think it really helps out if you're doing anything that you hunted. Like if you have wild game, you have deer, you have elk, and you want to make snack sticks out of it, and you're adding a pork fat. So those two proteins, the fat and the protein, they're not together already. So you've got to bind them. You can do it just by hand and not in any binder, and it can work. But think of all the money you spent on your rifle or your bow, taking time off to go out there, all the effort. Spend the extra $8 for Sure-Gel, as opposed to nothing, and give yourself that little bit of room for error.
And if you are truly concerned about the cost on it, use soy protein blend.
Yep.
Most of the time, I honestly, we sell a lot of soy protein blend, but I don't know that I would use soy protein blend over Sure-Gel or carrot fiber. It's kind of one of those, if you just don't want to pay for the Sure-Gel, but you want to add protein to make protein extraction easier, at least use the soy protein blend.
Yeah, and soy protein blend is one of those weird ones. If you just took it and put it in water, it kind of plumps up and it looks like oatmeal.
A strange oatmeal.
But you don't have any of that texture or appearance in your finished sausage. So something must happen to it during the cooking process that completely breaks that down.
I am not a chemist, and I don't want to go back to school to get a chemistry degree. but I'm pretty sure something goes on, during cooking to change something there.
We could ask my wife.
I was going to offer that, but I didn't want to.
She's very specific chemistry. It's never like the fun chemistry that I want to know about.
Dylan may know some of that, why it works that way.
We could ask him that.
He got his degree in food science, blah 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 blah. I don't know exactly what it was. All
smart people stuff.
Yeah, food science, blah 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 blah. That's the only thing I know. But he probably knows the answer for that. So we may have to get him in here sometime, and maybe he can give us some better details on exactly how that works. But
yeah, so definitely a great way just to make the entire sausage process easier. You're going to end up with a better product. Use some sort of binder. And before we move on to the next thing, Dylan told me a story about the K-State Meat Lab once, that they have a building that's all negative pressure. So it's all lower pressure inside than outside, so that nothing will escape. And they have a pool that's just like acid. And they put carcasses on that and lower it into the acid to just completely dissolve it for when they're using things like whatever mad cow disease is.
Yeah.
When they're like testing that.
So I wonder, I don't know for sure, but I wonder if that's the bio research facility.
It's gotta be.
Because I've been through their main meat lab. I have not had a chance to go to the bio research facility.
Okay.
I want to. Someday I might eke my way in there, but the main meat lab, I don't think that's there. I think it's the bio research. But they do stuff like that where it's hey, there's this disease or something, and how do we handle that? Because we want to keep all the bad things out of the food supply. So they purposely do things to create problems, and then they fix them. That type of thing.
Yeah, and if you eventually capture James Bond and you want to like threaten him slowly, that's what you use. That's immediately what I thought of. All right, on to featured seasoning.
No. I thought we were...
Oh, you want to do that first? We can absolutely do that first.
We can do either way.
Go ahead.
Okay.
You already have it.
So our featured product of the day, new featured product, slightly new. We've had it for a bit, but it hasn't been a year, and I think there's still a lot of people that are getting used to seeing it out there. But it's this little bamboo box. But what is special about the little bamboo box is that there's a meat probe inside here. Sorry about that. Drop the bamboo box. So those of us that are watching on YouTube, you can see, if not on the podcast, I'll kind of describe it to you here. It's basically a stainless steel tube that is a thermometer with I almost want to say it's poly on the end here.
Something,
but it's a high temp poly. On the very end is another little piece of stainless steel. So what this little thing does, it's called a meter plus. On the end is the thermometer. You put this thing in a sausage, a snack stick,
anything,
whatever, prime rib, small, large, whatever. You can measure the internal temp of the meat product, but also this little stainless steel thing right on the end gives you ambient temperature as well. And it's 100% completely wireless. So normally when people say, oh, I have a wireless thermometer,
right,
it's still connected to a cable, to a unit that then broadcasts a signal to your phone or something or another device. This one is 100% wireless.
Yep.
The probe talks to your phone. The beautiful thing about the little bamboo box is it is a recharging kit. You just snap it right on the inside and it recharges off of just like a AA or AAA battery. So that makes recharging super simple. But it also doubles as an extender. So it all runs off of Bluetooth to your phone, but by default, just with the probe, I mean, you get like
you do probe
10
to
feet.
that. Yeah, you got to keep that within 10 feet of that.
Yeah, so if you get the extender, the little bamboo box here, it lets you go up to like 100 feet. It's a lot further. I can almost reach from back on our back patio here up to the studio kitchen here.
My understanding, and we're going to have to figure this out, is that the probe connects to the box talks to your phone.
It can
probe
be either.
itself, can it be either?
Yeah, because the plain standard meter is the same probe.
Okay.
It just doesn't have the repeater in the box here.
So it's the same box without the repeater.
Yeah. So
Gotcha.
the probe talks directly to your phone.
Okay.
So it's yeah.
Now, if you have an extra iPad or something laying around, you can quickly get to limitless range. You simply put that within 100 feet of this. And then I've done it numerous times where I've gone home at lunch and just left our work phone back there and take my phone home. And I see exactly what's going on with that. And we're in a weird place right now where most of us have an extra wireless device that we're not smart device that we're not really using.
Strangely. Yeah.
So strange. But yeah,
strangely.
Nope, that thing is awesome. Cleans up easy. And I don't know if the meter guys know this or not, but you can freeze that thing solid in meat and it doesn't have any negative effects. You want to talk about that?
By the way, where is my pulled pork?
Oh, it's in there.
Oh,
it's in the freezer.
In the freezer? Okay. Yeah. I was worried it was in the fridge still. So yeah, I might have I talked about this on an earlier podcast about making pulled pork for my wife because she was very adamant that I needed to, and then I was supposed to make it for something and I forgot. She didn't say anything until afterwards, and she's like, "You didn't make pulled pork," and I'm like, "Oh no, I feel horrible." So I had to make pulled pork, and then what did I do? I cooked it. It took a lot longer than I thought. I was down here at like 11 o'clock that night, and I was like, whatever, pull it out, put it in a big like 15 by 18 vac bag, like 4 of them. And then I just threw them in John's freezer, and then I forgot about them.
A couple of days later, I was looking for the meter. I'm like, I have the box. I'm like, where is the... So I asked Austin, I'm like, did you take this? I'm like, oh. And he just started laughing immediately. He's like, oh no, that's frozen in your deep freezer. So we took it out, thawed everything, pulled it right out, plugged it in, tested it again, and it worked like a charm.
So this is rugged. The frozen thermometer.
That is it. Yep.
Perfect.
It is rugged for sure. Does a great job. Truly wireless, does offer some great benefits. Don't have to leave your oven even just that little bit propped. Same thing with your smoker. So great thing. All right.
So from there, now do you want to go back to featured seasonings?
I do.
Okay.
I will do it. This is one of my very favorite seasonings here. So it is called Paws Black Bull, and there are 2 different start over.
Say it again, John.
Okay. So for featured seasonings, this is one of my favorite seasonings here. It is Paws Black Bull. And now there are 2 different kinds. There's both the marinade and the soluble. And I love them both, to be honest. And just because you have the soluble, don't think that you can't use it as a marinade, because you can, and I have many times. So there is I don't want to call him out. There's a somewhat local meat processor guy who's on Meatgistics who I talk with a good amount. And I've been trying to get people to use this on chicken for a while now, ever since I used it on turkey, and figured out it's amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing on any type of poultry. I do it in a slow cooker, and then I just do pulled chicken with it, and it's incredible. Absolutely delicious. It's a sort of a tough taste to describe. Like it adds an umami type flavor, but it's salty.
Well, yeah, every seasoning should have salt to it. It should be salty.
We know how you feel about that.
It should be very salty. But it's and that was one of the things that I think for some reason sticks out in my head. Like when you first started in here, when we were talking about seasonings, and I was trying to describe that to you. I think you had it before, but still I was trying to describe it, and I'm just like, I don't know. I mean, it just adds it adds more meat flavor to it. It enhances the meat flavor.
Our old customer service manager, Ashley, gave it the best description that I've heard. And all she said is it makes meat taste more like meat.
Yeah.
That is the best description of it. Now, there are a couple people on Meatgistics who think I'm overly fanboy about this, but most people who try it absolutely adore it. So
It changes a little bit depending upon what you do it on, I think. Just because if you do a longer cook, I think you get a better caramelized outside to it. Yep. So my favorite thing to use it on is brisket. Because when you use Paws Black Bull on a brisket, it just creates this caramelized, dark, deep color on the outside it's almost like a piece of candy. It's not like necessarily that sweet. It's weird there that it does have some sugar and stuff in it, but it turns like the outside of a brisket into candy without being like sweet like a candy.
Yeah, I think your grandfather, so I did a ton of briskets with that for open house.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, he said it was the best brisket he's ever had. I'm pretty sure that your grandfather said that the briskets
I wouldn't trust him.
I made
I wouldn't
were the best ones he'd ever had. I could be wrong.
He's getting old and his taste buds are diminishing, and I'm sure that he just.
But it works great on brisket. I love it on pulled pork. That's not what you used on these, right? You used your butter flavor.
No,
you used these?
I did. I used the soluble on these.
Okay, yeah.
However, I'm slightly disappointed. Maybe you will give me some pointers on what to do next time, but I think what I want to do next time is I want to inject with the soluble, and then I'm going to take the regular Paws Black Bull and I'm going to marinate it for like a day.
Why?
I didn't feel like I got enough on the outside.
Okay.
And now, again, I'm Austin, and I did other weird things with it. So then I coated the outside with smokehouse barbecue. So you cover up some of that, a lot of it, but at the same time, it just, I don't know.
I think if you're going to run into any displeasure with that is we had some time limitations here that were just messing with you. You didn't have the opportunity to just be like, hey, this is what I'm doing today. Just like, unfortunately, you have to do with everything else.
Yeah.
You're doing your 3 toes in that and everything else, you're doing so many other things that you can't pay the attention to it that it needs.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I've done numerous pulled pork, a bunch of different things with the soluble and used it as a marinade, and it turns out great. So don't blame the seasoning, Austin.
I think
that was embarrassing.
Well, I think my biggest complaint, which you're gonna laugh as soon as I say it, is that it wasn't salty enough for me. It just, I wanted more marinade in. I know you can give me all the grief you want, but I wanted more salt in there because the butter flavored roast beef pump, the butter flavored seasoning, it has a good amount of salt to it, and then I like double the usage. Yeah. And so I make it salty, and it is a buttery, salty mess.
Salt is not salty enough for you.
No, when I go home every day, I take my salt shaker and just pour it in my hand and like put like 2 tablespoons in there, and I throw it down and I eat it because
I don't see. That's not hard for me to believe at all. I could easily believe you do that.
I would never do that with my salt shaker. I would do that with butter garlic or garlic romano. Garlic romano. You could do it with garlic romano though.
Do you remember the sun-dried basil? God.
Excalibur is still killing. Maybe, someday.
How many cases do we have to buy?
A lot.
More than 6?
Oh, more than 6. Okay. Like exponential over the top of that. Someday I'm going to private label and custom blend that just because I'm sick of not having the sun-dried tomato basil. It was my favorite seasoning.
Oh, God. Austin and I used to literally just take huge amounts of this, pour it out into our hands, and eat it. Like, there were days where I went through a half a shaker.
Yeah, it was one of the seasonings that strangely, like normally salt is your number one ingredient, but it was heavy in so many other things that salt was way down the list. So
Parmesan cheese was the number one ingredient. It was so good. Do you remember the bread we made out of that?
Yeah. Ugh. It was the best bread I've ever had in my life.
Killing us, Excalibur. But no, in all honesty, we love you. Please keep doing exactly what you're doing, except
Please,
for discontinuing
and
amazing
please,
seasonings.
Please bring back sun-dried tomato basil. Actually, honestly, I think I'm just going to custom blend it. We'll figure out a way how to make it work. Now that we're talking about it, I can't get it off my mind, and I want it. So,
all right.
I think that wraps it up for today.
That wraps it up.
Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you listening. If you have any questions, comments, feedback, specifically questions, because we'll say who you are and we'll announce your question and we'll answer it live. Well, live-ish for us, live-ish on air. Email us at podcast@waltonsinc.com. And if you like the podcast, even if you don't like the podcast,
doesn't matter.
It really doesn't matter.
Recommend it.
Recommend our podcast. Give it 5 stars or the thumbs up or whatever it is on whichever platform you're listening, whether it's Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere else. Leave us a review and give us a good one, even if the podcast isn't good.
And especially if you're listening to this on Talk North, make sure you check out The Flush, Minnesota Bound, all their other shows. They're all great. We know those guys, love them. They're great guys. So support that network as well.
Cool. That's about it. We'll see you guys next week.
All right. We'll see you.